Sex distribution of the cases is 6 females, of which 5 are new cases, and 3 males, which are all new cases. The age range is from 9 years to 49 years. The new COVID-19 positive cases are geographically distributed as follows. 4 from Windhoek, and 4 are new cases with 1 reinfection, meaning that we have 5 from Windhoek. Erongo 2 from Wolfish Bay, Ohangwena 1 from Engela, and Oshikoto also 1 from Tsumeb. Among the confirmed cases, 1 is Helena. 1 case has received 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. 4 are fully vaccinated, of which 1 has received a booster dose, while 5 cases are not vaccinated. We are reporting 41 new recoveries from 3 regions. Oshikoto has recorded 25 recoveries, Erongo 15, and Khomas 1. Now, with those recoveries, the total number of active cases now stands at 194. 22 cases are currently hospitalized across 9 regions. 3 hospitalized cases are fully vaccinated, while 19 cases are not vaccinated, constituting 86.4%. 1 case is in ICU, and that 1 case in ICU is not vaccinated. The distribution of hospitalization of confirmed cases per region is as follows. Khomas 4 with 1 in ICU. Oshikoto 4, Oshana 4, Kavango East 2, Ohangwena 2, Erongo 2, Sambesi 2, Omusati 1, and Osholunjupa also 1. We have not recorded any deaths during the period under review. By the 7th of March 2022, a total of 435,609 people aged 18 years and older have received 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, representing 30% of the target population, which is 1,471,973. A total of 126,181 people have received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, while 250,196 adults have received 2 doses of other vaccine types. In other words, 376,377 adults have completed their vaccination, and that translates to 26% of the target population. A total of 128 individuals have received component 1 of Sputnik 5 vaccine, and 76 have received component 2 of the same vaccine. Hence, a total of 204 doses of Sputnik 5 were administered, and that is included in the grand totals. 10,440 children between the age of 12 and 17 have received 1 dose of the Pfizer vaccine, representing 3.4% of the target population, which is 307,298. Of these, 2,830 are fully vaccinated. Therefore, the cumulative number of people vaccinated with the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine for both adults and children is 446,000 249, of which 379,207 are fully vaccinated, translating to 21.3% of the total population. 31,480 people have received a COVID-19 vaccine booster dose. Moving towards conclusion, the summary of the national update as of 8th of March 2022 is as follows. Cumulative newly confirmed individuals, 157,366. Newly confirmed individuals, 8. New reinfection, 1. So, which means that the cumulative cases, including reinfections now, stand at 159,450. We have recoveries of 155,227, giving us a recovery rate of 97.3%. Active cases, 194. Cumulative COVID-19 vaccine first dose, 446,049. Cumulative COVID-19 vaccine second dose, 253,026. Cumulative COVID-19 vaccine completed, 379,207. COVID-19 deaths, 3,685. COVID-19 related deaths, 329. That gives us a total number of deaths of 4,014. Total samples tested, 964,061. Active contacts, 356. Cumulative number of people who have been quarantined, 89,278, of which 88,899 have been discharged from quarantine facilities, leaving us with 379 people who are currently in quarantine facilities. Madam Moderator, thank you very much. That's the end of today's update. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable, for always making sure that we are updated to the status of COVID-19 in our country. And until we see you again tomorrow, have a good one. Getting back to the topic for this afternoon, we are speaking to or looking at learners' mental health and well-being on the school grounds. As I said, it is every parent's concern when they drop off their little ones at the school gates, whether or not they will find their children in the state that they left them in. And unfortunately, one is left with no choice but to be at the mercy of those to whom we hand over the care of our children. And those are the personnel of the school areas as well as the teachers. Every single staff member is who we hand over our children to. But what does that entail? And in the studio this afternoon, we've got a healthy panelist of females. Yes. Yesterday was International Women's Day, so I don't know whether that's deliberate or coincidental, but we have females in the panel this afternoon that will be helping us look into this topic. On my far left, I've got Ms. Karika Viljoen, and she is the Chief Education Officer for Diagnostics, Advisory and Training Services with the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture. Good afternoon, Ms. Karika.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me.
Yes. And we also have Ms. Justine Membo Naftali. She is a school counselor at the Hagegengop High School. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
And last but never the least, we've got Ms. Gisla Kalipi, and she is a clinical psychologist at the Eterameno Rehabilitation and Resource Center. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
As I said, lovely, healthy panel of females. Getting into the topic here, I would like to find out first and foremost, and I think this is a very important question to get out of the way, are teachers and or personnel in schools qualified to recognize the wide range of mental health needs such as anxiety, grief, suicidal thoughts at schools?
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, we have sufficient life skills teachers in schools. And in Commerce region, we have 3 regional counselors that are stationed at the head office. We also have a race coordinator who's responsible for health as well as well-being. And in addition to that, we also have different stakeholders that the Ministry of Education engages with and advocates to complement these interventions.
Okay. It's good to find out that, at any given time, a child in the school has somebody that they can approach. Or even if they do have that little bit of a breakdown, there is somebody that can step in. So I as a parent, I'm definitely, put at ease by a response that tells me that we do have qualified personnel in our school grounds. The next question is much with regards to structures in place. Are there structures in place to support teachers and personnel in schools? And this is more specifically on their personal, what they go personally, because we all know that sometimes what you go through personally in your life tends to somehow always spill over into your area of employment. And this is what we want to find out. Are teachers supported? Do they have structures in place that support teachers?
Sure, we do. As a Ministry of Education, per se, we don't have a structure, but we work very closely related to our line ministries and with Ministry of Gender and Ministry of Health as well. Since the mandate of Ministry of Health is to cater for citizens that's over the age of 18 years. We do have our psychologist and his mental health unit available. Then also as a ministry, we advocate for our staff and education officers to make use of their medical aid, to seek private services for psychology if the need be. We also have, yes, as we say, a psychologist available for psychologists and psychological counselors available at national level as well as regional level in the different line ministries to assist our staff because their well-being is very important.
Yeah, very much. So there we have it, teachers. Ms. Gisela, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I'd actually like to add that, and I'm very happy and I'm glad to hear that the ministries and the government has put structures in place to sort of be able to support our teachers. But I'd also like to make emphasis and just to inform, everybody that it's actually important that we also take our own mental health as, service providers and as teachers into our own hands. And to be able to identify within ourselves when, the things that we go through, the effects of COVID, and like you mentioned, the problems that usually spill over, for us to be able to create that awareness within ourselves so that we can be so that we are able to take the necessary steps to reach help and not just wait for ministry or other institutions to provide the service. I think the first point of departure would be, self, being able to recognize when you're not doing okay and then so that you can actually reach out to the different service providers.
Yeah, Ms. Kurika?
Important is that we need to understand that we have to take care of ourselves. If we don't take care of ourselves, we will not be able to provide a conducive learning environment to look out for when the learner is having or showing red flags themselves. So our health is very important. Physical and mental health is important.
Yeah. As I think the thing that we need to take home here is with regards to what these two panelists said is it starts with the self. You need to identify within yourself and you need to make that conscious decision that, look, this is where I need to now take the next step because I am not fine. You know, you cannot necessarily provide for the next person if you don't have what it takes to make that provision. So that, I think that's the one important thing that we should consider, because we always talking, like right now we're talking about the learners in the schools, we're talking about their well-being and how they're treated and how they are, you know, but it's very rare that we stop and think about the teacher, what they go through, what they need to do, and so on. So that's actually a very good point there. And hopefully we have actually assisted somebody to know that there are places, doors that they can knock on. Moving on, we would like to know that are there scheduled engagements? And this now comes back to between the teacher and the learner. Are there scheduled engagements between teachers and learners that allow for the safe platforms where they can get to discuss issues that they're seeing as learners are seeing through the schools, or that teachers are seeing that they're concerned about, that the children are engaging in, and also allowing them to ask each other questions, especially with regards to the learners to be able to ask questions, and in the hope of reducing levels of issues such as anxiety and stress and so on. Do we have such programs and structures in school?
Yes, we do have structures in place in schools, and this engagement usually takes place during the life skills lessons under the guidance of the life skills teacher. And on school levels, many schools have also established counseling support groups within the school, which is chaired by the life skills teacher, but also other teachers are part of the counseling support group. This is just to ensure that we create that neutral counseling environment within the school.
Yeah.
Because there are times when you find that there are learners who are not so comfortable to discuss their issues with the life skills teacher. So this allows them to also engage with other teachers so that they are also, in cases where the life skills teacher is not present at the school, we don't create that space where the counseling issues are not attended to. What we also do at school levels, we engage other stakeholders, like we have life coaches that come in the schools from Staff for Life. We also have Regain Trust. We also have learners support groups, and during the afternoon they can meet up with each other and discuss these issues of concern.
But staying with you, Ms. Naftali, on this point now, you mentioned that sometimes not all the learners are comfortable,
Yes.
or, you know, to open up to just any random person. Now, in this situation where you have a learner who is going through something, and they choose that particular teacher, regardless of whether they're a life skills teacher or not, can you give us examples of scenarios? What are possible stages or steps that can be taken by this particular teacher to try and assist this learner?
Okay, what we normally do as life skills teachers, we also engage our colleagues on helping throughout the school, because we have class teachers that are responsible for each and every grade. So we also have internal referral forms for counseling.
Yeah.
So if the learner chooses to confide in a specific teacher other than the life skills teacher, we also coach them on how to handle these cases. And also, very important, to maintain the level of confidentiality.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, but I need to, these are questions that come up and one would really like to address them. Ms. Naftali, you mentioned the whole teacher confidentiality and so on. In the beginning, we also looked at the presence of professionally trained or qualified personnel within the school grounds. But when it comes to each individual teacher within maybe their education history or curriculums as they were being trained to become educators, do they tackle any aspects of psychology studies or anything to that regard?
Most of the teachers have undergone training on how to deal with learners, like learner support modules that they were covered during their studies.
Okay.
So they have a background of how to deal with counseling issues, but not to a level where life skills teachers have been trained to.
Okay, okay. Now, I think that is one thing that we would also just like to know. Do you know that just that entry point, that beginning stage, it's more comforting to know that any random teacher is somehow, even if it's just a little bit, equipped to know, what to do when it comes to a particular issue that the learner is going through. The next question speaks to the Covert pandemic. And, the pandemic really hit every and any sphere of life quite hard. And many of our children lost primary and or secondary caregivers. And we want to know, what are, if there are any, support structures that are being employed to assist these learners who find themselves in such dire situations?
Yes, I think I can also answer that one. Yes, there are structures in place for that. Let's say in case where a child has lost the primary or secondary caregiver, immediately the life skills teacher facilitates the bereavement counseling process. And also in cases where there is a need to transfer the learner to another school. Let's say, for example, the family has decided to relocate the learner. So we facilitate in alliance with other schools in preferred regions to make sure that there is a smooth transfer of the child from one school to the other. And then also, sometimes we have, we are also in collaboration with different constituency councillors' offices. We also do referrals there. In case the child needs some sort of physical, social support, we also do refer there. And also, we work closely with social workers.
Okay. Ms. Kareka, from the ministry's perspective?
From the ministry, it is, especially on this point, it is important, and that's why we work so closely with our line ministries, to be able to offer the support to these learners. And as my colleague mentioned, that we work together with the social workers, the teachers, family members that need the counselling, as well as the regional school counsellor and the inspector of education. And where needed, national education officers at national level are asked to assist with processes where needed.
Yeah. Okay. It is a national matter. I always say this. Most of the topics that we tackle on this platform are such that you are welcome to be involved in the conversation. And this is why we always call on to our viewers to call us in, to give us their input. And if they do have, or if you do have a question that you need to ask anybody who is present on the panel this afternoon, you are welcome to do so. Our number in the studio is 061 400 397. 061 400 397. You can also make contact with us through our social media platforms. Our Facebook page is Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. That's Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. You can also find us on YouTube, and we are also live streaming through that platform. And our handle there is MICT Namibia, MICT Namibia. And we continue this afternoon. From your experience, Ms. Gisela, you are with Etegameno, and it is a rehabilitation and resource center. But before I continue with that question, maybe we can just welcome our caller that's on the line currently. Good afternoon, anytime from Tsumeb. How are you?
I'm good, Madam Gaya. How are you, Madam?
We are well. Welcome to the show, and thank you for always gracing us with your presence. What do you have in your mind today?
Thank you very much. And a good afternoon to the panel there. A very good topic here, and from the education perspective, I don't know. It's a very, very broad topic under discussion.
Yeah.
And on that spectrum, I tend to a little bit not in line with the indication that we are trained life skills teachers in schools, in most schools. Number two, the structure, their structure I don't know what is the structure, whatever, equipment, whatever there is that support the teachers. I don't know whether it is structured, whatever, equipment, whatever there is that support the teachers. I don't know whether it is structured, whatever, equipment, whatever there is that support the teachers. I don't know whether it is structured, whatever Also, that one I may say not maybe the schools in commerce region. But let's extend it into the interior of the exterior of the country. In the different regions, from rural setup up to the setup. We really doing justice to say that there are structures in place to support the teachers and the qualified personnel to deal with the learners with the mental health and the well-being. For me, I have noticed that there are no trained qualified personnel in this regard. In most schools, teachers are being appointed just to take over to be right to a teacher. If the teacher did not go for a training. Number two, there are no structured whatever situation that you indicated there that supports the teachers. Maybe you can look that one into detail when we go into most schools countrywide, whether in rural schools or maybe in commerce region, maybe there, I don't know. But where I am and where I've been, we didn't train the large skilled teachers fully, and the structure that supports the teachers.
Yeah.
Finally, I just want to find out from the panel there, how do they assist the teachers to handle the learners with the mental illness or mental health? To find their learners who are in the mainstream, but they were supposed to be in special schools.
Yeah.
Now they are given it to the teachers to handle them when they are in the wrong place. So thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. Anytime. We will be posting these points to the panelists. Thank you for always being part of the show. And I hope we can give you some of the answers. Bye-bye. There are a few points that Mr. Anytime brought up, and I think I will direct this to Ms. Karika. And I will do so because his approach to this was more on a national level. His concern is with regards to, we keep mentioning that we've got support structures for learners in schools, we've got qualified teachers to handle any and every situation that comes up, we've got teacher support systems in place. But what he is saying, if I understood Anytime correctly, is the fact that this might actually be a miss when it comes to the rest of the country, away from the main towns, your main towns such as, for example, your Windhoek or your Walfish Bay or your Swakop or your Chuarongo. He was referring more to the rural setup. So maybe you can just guide us with regards to disbursement of life skills teachers. Maybe if you've got any more deeper or detailed information, how does this take place? How does a school, does employment go through the ministry directly, or do you get cases where schools do their recruitment themselves? How do you make sure that there is a healthy balance of these professionals within the school structures across the country?
Okay. The employment, it works. You have to apply through the Human Resource Department of the regional office. The vacancy lists are made available if they are approved on the structures, and then you are shortlisted and interviewed if you do qualify for the position. The ministry want to advocate, and we are that we do want and make it a priority to employ people that are qualified for the jobs, and no longer just fill positions because they can be filled or they need to be filled. In terms of reaching the rural areas, how we have in every region we have a regional school health task force, of which the regional school counsellor is part of. Where there's not regional school counsellors available, there's a race coordinator, and our divisions work very closely together in order to provide these services. In addition, the regional school counsellors get trained specifically on guidance and counselling if there were some area where they couldn't be trained in their formal education. So a lot of in-service training takes place. as well as they then go to their region, and the regional school counselor is responsible for training the life skills teacher. From the life skills teacher, they need to go share the information on school level with their colleagues. We do know, and this is an unfortunate thing that we do not have control over, there is a very high turnover of life skills teacher. They get trained, and next 6 months you find someone else in the position, and then it takes a lot of time before that person can be trained again. So we do have a high turnover of life skills teachers, unfortunately. But through the Regional School Health Task Force, with other stakeholders such as line ministries and non-NGOs, they go into the school to assist the teacher, because one teacher cannot do everything by themselves. So they go into the schools, as Ms. Justine said earlier, we've got Lifeline, Childline available, we've got Regain Trust, where learners in rural areas can make use of these facility or means to get some assistance. Yes.
Okay. There was the second part that Mr. Anytime also spoke about. This is with regards to, maybe for a lack of a better word, we'll refer it to as the misplacement of some learners, where you find a learner that maybe should have actually been placed in a different setup with regards to special schools and so on, but they end up in the mainstream system. How are teachers then supported to deal with such a situation? Are they trained, number one, to deal with that? Because there is psychosocial situations that, you know, do come up with, again, for a lack of a better word, your normal child in the mainstream. And I'm sure when we speak about qualified teachers, we're referring to such situations. But mental health is another situation on its own. And how does that teacher then deal with that? What is the support that they get? Are they actually, you know, even these life skills teachers, are they actually also qualified enough to deal with mental health or learners with mental health issues in the school setup? And what are the steps that can be taken if, you know, a school finds itself with such a situation? I don't know, maybe Ms. Karika can start with that, and then Ms. Justine can assist or add on.
Well, one challenge that we do have, and we cannot shy away from that, is we do not have enough learning support units at the different schools in the different regions, which mean learners with, yes, inclusive education and the inclusive education framework assist us with helping learners with diverse needs and individual learning needs to be accommodated. However, as the caller mentioned, that learners with intellectual impairment are placed in these in mainstream schools, and they are not necessarily catered for according to their individual needs. We have to advocate and make it a priority in our regions to take this seriously, that we have to establish learning support units and their own resource schools for learners that have severe learning support needs that are not necessarily being catered for well enough, because every learner is entitled and has the right to quality education, and we need to ensure that, and we have to work together to reach that goal. So in terms, when it comes, the caller was referring back to learners with intellectual impairment and the training of teachers. What we do have is resource schools, which are very few in the country and not enough that we need. And the majority is based in Windhoek. And it's very difficult for a learner from a rural area close to Inanna just to up and go and come to Windhoek and be left here with no support structure, with no family close by, which is not helping their mental mental health situation.
Yeah.
So we need to be proactive in our own regions to cater for our learners, so that we can ensure quality in education. The resource schools offer support as well as the regional office, and through the if there's life skills, through the life skills teacher, they can contact the regional office. If the regional office is not able to assist at that point in time, they will call us at national or at head office, and we offer the support into how to deal with learners that require more individual attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Gisela, what I was going to ask you earlier on, you are based with or work with Iterameno Rehabilitation and Resource Center. As a resource center, are there any programs that you engage with as an institution that assists in the educational sector or in the education sector? Are there any programs that your resource center is engaged with that pertains to learners and school environments and so on?
Okay. Thank you for that very important question. So currently at our rehabilitation center, we mainly cater to, let me say, individuals who are above the age of 18.
Yeah.
So of course, when you're looking at that age, 18 is still, a 19-year-old is still in school, right?
Yeah, last year of school.
Last year of school.
Yeah.
Yes, so we're still able to then cater to someone who is struggling with some form of substances. Yes, but also, if I can also add, we are in the process of starting a center, but then for children who are under the age of 18, so that we're also able
Like a
to,
juvenile center.
yes, so that we're also able to cater to that population.
Okay.
But my understanding is also that at national level there are memorandum of understanding with other ministries, such as Ministry of Gender. In the past, they have actually had taken in children who are younger than 18, and then you've had our colleagues from the Ministry of Gender who just would come in to assist with offering not only a rehabilitative services, but then also engaging them on a more vocational, because then of course when we're looking at rehabilitation services, for children it would have to be a different type of program from the adults.
Yeah.
So we are still working on strengthening these type of relationships, and then also strengthening and continuing with these type of programs.
Okay.
Yes.
I would like to stay with you. From your experience, your work experience, your personal experience, your studies and so on, can you maybe just assist us with symptoms at learner level? The ages, I'm sure we're familiar, it's 6 to 18. That's usually the range in which our children are in school. What are the most common symptoms that learners display that could be indications of possible mental health concerns?
Okay. So the thing with symptoms where pertaining to children, either they can actually be quite, or they're not as easy to pick up. Because when we're talking about children and their development and their growth, it's accompanied with, the whole process is accompanied by change, right? So sometimes parents and teachers are sort of put in this position where where we're not really sure if it's a developmental problem, it's part of development, or if there's actually something else that we need to look into. And also, just because children, just with adults, they're able to verbalize, children cannot do the same. So you're not necessarily waiting for a child to come and tell you, I am suffering from, these type of symptoms, so let's maybe look at referring systems. So, but every child has got normal characteristics, and especially for a parent or for a child, because you spend a lot of time with these children, so you're able to pick up when the child or this learner has got out of character personality or symptoms.
Yeah.
Right. So if maybe you start to notice that there is persistent sadness, and this sadness goes over a long period of time,
Yeah.
that is one of the key indicators that that maybe there is it's a situation or it's a problem that we need to look deeper into. And irritability, mood swings, those type of symptoms, crying or crying spells. The other day I was talking to a teacher and they mentioned that they've had one of their learners who was just constantly crying in class. So when we're able to pick up on those type of symptoms, then we can start the channels of referrals to school counselors and so forth. And even like losing weight or excessive eating as well, changing sleep difficulties.
Okay.
Yes. For children also, they may also be exhibiting symptoms of being extremely scared. And then that fear can be accompanied with not wanting to be around people, even though this is maybe a particular family member that they used to be very fond of, and all of a sudden they are not really. Or they have that fear towards engaging with that particular individual. And the most importantly, I think also for learners at school level, change in academic performance. That is one of the key indicators, and I think the colleagues can also agree that, and that's usually maybe one of the first symptoms that also teachers may pick up. If you have usually a high achieving child, and then all of a sudden, the marks start to drop. One starts to wonder. That is there something that we should look into, or then you start to probe then naturally as a teacher or as a parent.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But now, staying with Ms. Gisela, once you do identify these symptoms and you're really you're concerned, okay, maybe as a teacher you engage the parent and so on. Which would be the advisable step? Because we've got two types of psychologists that tend to, treat children. And this, I'm not an expert. It's just from a little bit of research. We've got educational psychologists, and then we've got child psychologists, clinical psychologists. Once you've picked up these symptoms, which would then be the best person to approach? First, do you go to the educational psychologist, or do you go to the child clinical psychologist? What guides you on which of the two you go to?
I think naturally that will be dependent on the nature of presentation. Right? So, for example, if, let's say, with the academic performance that is decreasing, or there is a developmental, delay. So naturally, those are the type of cases that we can refer to the educational psychologist, so that the relevant assessments can be done, so that we can sort of try to get a deeper understanding as to what the problem may be. But then also, if maybe there is, like I mentioned, one of the other symptoms, persistent sadness, and maybe anger outbursts, irritability, all of that, then those are the type of cases that you can also refer to either people who specialize in child psychology or clinical. But I also would like to add that some of the symptoms are very cross-cutting. Right? So you cannot, it's not always that you have a clear-cut case as to this is certainly the problem. So that's why we work together. You can find that a clinical psychologist maybe can refer to an educational, just to have more of those assessments made, so that we're able to establish clearly what the problem or what the challenge is. Yes.
I think based what I can deduce from what you said, it's like we should pay attention to the type of symptom, first of all. I think that would assist us to know who to approach. But in the case where we can't really pinpoint, we are still not amiss if we approach any of them, because they can still, revert us back to the relevant person.
Definitely, because I think also when you're in doubt, refer.
Yeah.
If you have been referred or you made an incorrect referral, then the person will just redirect you to the appropriate service or the relevant person.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Karika, you'd like to add?
No.
Okay.
My mask.
Okay. Ms. Naftali, we would like to know that, learners generally, they interact. And we always believe that positive social interaction amongst learners, it has actually been known to be highly beneficial towards their growth and also their learning process, as they get to do a lot of information sharing, and because they understand each other at their level, they tend to know, educate each other, if I can call it that, better on a social stance than us as parents or adults trying to get these messages through to them. But then the pandemic came along, and it came along with a lot of strict limitations. We would just like to find out, are there any provisions that were made by the different schools, including your own where you are, that you are aware of, that provided these platforms that allowed for continued interaction for learners?
Yes, it's true that social interaction is very important, especially when they have been out of school for some time, and then they miss each other. So when they return to school, there are interventions in place at different schools, and these interventions, we take into account the school safety protocols that we put in place, and they usually interact with each other during break time, after school sessions, also during the extramural activities, as well as sporting events. So, but we just make sure that we take very good care of social distancing, and also just to sensitize and create continuous awareness that they have to maintain and keep to COVID-19 regulations.
Okay. So it's like where you've tried to create a bridge between the two.
Yes.
Where you have tried to create some form of normalcy in the abnormal.
Yes.
Just to try and ensure that this interaction continues. Okay.
Correct.
It takes a lot of effort, and I think we tend to underplay the the magnitude of what learners need to, teachers need to go through to try and put some of these structures in place. Ms. Gisela?
Yes, I also just wanted to add to what my colleague here has mentioned with regards to maintaining the social interactions. And I want to just stress how important it is that, children or that learners are still able to do and to engage in these kind of activities, because this is where socialization actually happens. The school ground is a place for socialization. There's a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge that is being transferred and being imparted, and across each other and with the learners. So I think it's just it's important that we still try to maintain and to balance COVID regulation rules, but then still being able to provide the platforms for because the process of learning and development has already been disrupted, so we must just try not to maybe disrupt it too much. So I think these type of things are actually quite important still.
Okay. We are running out of time. That's one of my biggest concerns. We never have enough time when it comes to these discussions, especially such that are really of importance to with regards to our children. But I would be amiss if I do not actually pose this last question, and that could maybe be how we close off the session for this afternoon. Ms. Karika, I will pose this to you because I believe it's a national matter. It's something that is dealt, or all Namibian learners or youth go through this. Learners have a high reliance on social media interaction, which makes them highly susceptible to bullying on these platforms. And there has been an increase on the social media usage due to the perspective or point. What are some of the measures that you have been able to employ along maybe with relevant authorities to help learners through these experiences?
Well, the learners make use of technology to connect with loved ones, especially now, as you mentioned, in COVID times when they couldn't be able to see each other face to face. And we know for developmental stages that face to face, as Gisela mentioned, is very important. So a lot of training has been done on child online protection. From the national level, and to implement it on ground level, but especially to train parents on the dangers of social media. Yes, it's positive, but it as well has a negative side. To know how to put on parental control, passwords, and also for our learners to understand that you need to think before you post. The consequences is once it's online, it's not very easy to take it off. And there is legal complications in many situations, and we find the bullying, it is a lot of cyberbullying. So from, I can just mention one that comes to mind recently was the International Day of the Girl under the theme Digital Generation, and which is our generation, to advocate and to sensitize and make learners aware of how you protect yourself online and how to use social media in a positive line, and to be aware of dangers of it.
Okay. You said it's the Child Day?
International Day of the Girl under the theme the Digital Generation, our generation.
When was that commemorated?
That was commemorated last year in the Commerce region.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a date on which the commemoration takes place?
I don't, but I can share it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be great. I think that that is how we come to the end of our show this afternoon. Please do continue to make any comments that you feel you want to have more information on our social media platforms. That's MICT, MICT Namibia. That's on YouTube, and we also have comments section that are available to you. That is Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. That is on Facebook. But with that said, we would like to thank you for being part of our show this afternoon. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for the comments that you made. Thank you for the questions that you have posed. We would also like to thank our panelists, Ms. Karika, Ms. Justina, Ms. Gazala, for availing their time to come and help us divulge this topic and just gain better understanding. And hopefully we were able to help a parent or a learner or a teacher out there that was sitting with a situation that they did not know who to turn to or how to approach this particular situation. With that said, from myself, Shianwa Desire Kahiha, and our production crew, we would like to invite you to tomorrow's session. That is tomorrow at 3 o'clock as usual, and we will be looking into the accessibility and availability and affordability of vocational education training institutions. That's tomorrow's session, the 10th of March. But from us today, bye-bye.